Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Greatness DC, as most of you know by now. And joining me this evening is, I'm not sure what he calls himself now that he wears the mask, but Ryan Rain, the owner of the Los Angeles Rams. Almost messed up and said St. Louis there. Say a quick hello there, Ryan.
Hello.
So it's been a while, like I said before. There's no timetable really for this. I don't really can't commit to doing it that much with my work schedule currently, so I'm doing it when I can. But there really isn't a better time to do a show like this than right before a season starts, like it is tonight. We've had a lot of changes that we'll be discussing temporarily, and obviously, we're going to give our predictions like we do at the start of every season. I used to write it up way easier and way quicker just to verbally say them. The first thing I wanted to touch on is there was actually a discussion in the group me recently about the value of positions and how we value positions and why we value them in what order. I just wanted to touch on that real quick and see what the general consensus is. I believe my order was quarterback, cornerback, number one receiver. And I want to stress when I say that I do just legit mean the true number one receiver. I don't really value the other receivers that much normally. And then from there, it's a mixture of things. I don't think after those top three, there's anything that really stands out as must have outside of maybe a pass rusher. But I know a lot of people said they don't value quarterbacks, and I'm not sure I fall in that same boat. I think the quarterback position in Madden is the most important position, even above cornerbacks. How do you feel, Ryan?
Well, I think the last couple of drafts, pretty much prove quarterback is fairly important. They can make or break games, seasons, even. Key third downs, third and short, third and long. A quarterback, very key in those positions. And a halfback, they can get the job done maybe, but the quarterback is that's the nucleus of the team, of the offense. You got to have a strong nucleus if you want to move forward. So, I mean,
And it's one thing that, and I'm glad you brought up looking at the past few drafts because that's what we're going to touch on as well is the amount of people that traded up to select a cornerback in this past draft, showing you how many people truly value cornerback. Even in last cycle, I was one of the few people I think that said they valued cornerback most on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of people value middle linebackers ahead of them, but I have and still do stand behind the belief that cornerback is the most important defensive position in Madden. I do believe that my two monster cornerbacks are part of the reason why I won a Super Bowl season one, even though one of them was hurt for that game. But I just don't think that you're going to win a Super Bowl in this league if you don't have a truly talented quarterback. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with a Ryan Nassib or an RG3 even.
no.
But since we're touching on the quarterback position so much, there are a lot of new teams that are playing with new quarterbacks this season. Some of those teams even being normal playoff teams or some that are Super Bowl contending teams. So let's touch on those real quick and get your thoughts. Obviously, the biggest trade of the offseason, in my opinion, was Aaron Rodgers finding himself being traded to the Houston Texans, which I think is the move that is honestly going to define the AFC in this coming season. I think RFF, with a great, honestly, more than likely still number one quarterback in the league, is going to do a lot more damage than some people realize. How do you feel Houston came out acquiring Aaron Rodgers? How big of a move do you think that is?
I think that's going to be great for Houston. They were doing fairly well, with Tom Savage, but I think with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be able to move to that elite level of the AFC and possibly, and with some of the top users leaving, that just leaves that door open for possibly, number one seed for Houston, right
Yeah,
there.
and in terms of new users, we actually have quite a few new users and still 3 open teams to fill. So a lot of unknowns when it comes to making these predictions that we're going to do later in the show. So keep that in mind. And with Green Bay shipping Aaron Rodgers out, we all knew there would be a change of guard in Green Bay, similar to when Brett Favre left and Aaron Rodgers took over. Aaron Rodgers leaving via trade. We knew someone had to take over. A lot of people thought it would be Brett Hundley. When Green Bay made the move to trade up to number 2, I believe, I was the person that predicted Green Bay would draft. Can't remember the guy's name. Alvarez Mason, I believe.
Yeah.
And even though Husker tried to play it off, I do want to say I called it. But he's bringing in little Vereen, baby Vereen. He's going to have the speed, and he's going to have good throwing stats to start with. I definitely think it's a better choice going forward than with Hundley. But the question comes is with rookie QBs comes struggle. Vereen early in the season, in his rookie season, was far from perfect. His accuracy, even while good stats, on the field, he was still missing wide open throws, making inaccurate throws, and that happened his entire rookie season. So do you think with Alvarez Mason that Green Bay is going to struggle more than they normally do?
I think they will. They don't have the veteran leadership leading the team. It's not fully established. But at the same time, Green Bay got rid of a lot of veterans. That was the key for the last two seasons of Green Bay. So a lot of rookies, a lot of low awareness in Green Bay. That could come back to bite them.
Yeah, obviously when you're one of those teams that get a lot of young kids, Green Bay had a lot of picks in the past 2 drafts. You I think awareness is one attribute you don't really know how much it actually affects in user games. I've heard different things from it doesn't affect at all to it actually still matters. So I guess it depends on what your opinion of it is. But awareness can still play a part in the game, I think. Other teams that got new quarterbacks, the Cleveland Browns, I think, drafted a new quarterback last year. Um, Akudo has done amazing work with the Browns roster, no question about it, through pulling off trades that acquired massive amounts of picks. We all remember back to when he traded Joe Hayden the very first season to acquire picks. He's got the roster. He's got a franchise QB. It'll be interesting to see if the Browns take the next step and become a regular playoff contender. The Los Angeles Rams, even finally, after years of me telling you how much you needed to get rid of Nick Foles and get a new QB, finally drafted a new quarterback. I think you said his name was Andrew Jones, former center fielder for the Atlanta Braves. Um, it's interesting when you bring in these young QBs. Obviously, you and the Browns are lucky in the fact that they had a sim season worth of XP before you had to take the field with them. How do you feel about your quarterback going into the season here?
Well, the sim season definitely helps. Um, less erratic throws, but even less than Foles. So far from training camp. Won't know until we actually get onto the field for week one. But I feel pretty confident. The offensive line's improved, so that helps out a little bit too. But overall, we got good receivers, good running back. He's got some great tools to work with, so should be able
Yeah,
to succeed fairly easily.
I want to touch on one of the guys that isn't going to get as nearly as much media attention is the management for the Giants finally selecting a QB in the draft. Now, I do want to say that the user himself, Fokker, still could not pull the trigger to draft his own quarterback. He had to let the CPU finally tell him just how much he needed a new QB in New York. But the quarterback the CPU did get for the Giants actually isn't that bad. I believe he goes by the name Cody Peterson, something similar to that. Uh, it'll be interesting to see if Fokker can finally get his head out of his own ass and play like he used to play in Madden. So we're gonna start to come to the end of the show here, and we didn't want this to take long, so we're gonna just jump right in. We're gonna go directly into the playoff predictions. We each made predictions for both conferences, ending in a Super Bowl prediction. I'm gonna lead off first, and I'm gonna go with my AFC predictions. In the AFC Easy, I've got the Miami Dolphins winning the division. A few new users there. I think the Buffalo Bills might have a shot at contending for the division. I've got the Oakland Raiders public coming in with a lot of hype from a few guys in the league saying he's a good user. He had an amazing amount of draft picks due to good trading after having back-to-back number one picks. It'll be interesting to see how his user skills step up as long with his management skills as he's had the past two seasons. The AFC North, maybe a shocker to some people, but I do think the Cleveland Browns are going to win the North here. Obviously, I think Freak is going to give him a run for his money, and I do think the Ravens are a shot in the dark. No one knows how they're going to play, but 297 speed, talented wide receivers obviously is going to be hard to defend for anybody. The AFC South, I'm giving to the Houston Texans. I think Aaron Rodgers and RFF are going to take a division that Jordan's pretty much had in control since the start. Then my two wildcard teams, I'm going to give obviously the Tennessee Titans. And the last one I'm going to give to the, what city? I don't even know what city they are. Oh, I'm sorry, the Portland Snowcocks is going to be my last prediction there. How do you feel about the AFC, Ryan?
Well, a lot of them I agree. The AFC East, I feel like the Dolphins, going to clean up there. Not a lot of competition. I feel like TSO veteran, Public Drunk's going to come in the West, clean up over there. I feel like Freak's going to come and win the North. I feel like it's going to be a clean cut win over the Browns this year. I feel like the Titans may edge out the Texans, maybe by a game. It's going to be a real close race there to watch, though. I put the Texans and the Browns as my two wild card teams, though. So
Yeah, I know you also wanted to touch on adding a little bit of Daddy League's flavor to it by adding three potential bubble teams that could slide in and get one of these playoff slots. I have the Steelers, Broncos, and the Ravens as the top three teams out that could slide in. What do you have there?
I actually have the Snowhawks, the Broncos, and the Bills as the three teams just outside the playoffs.
Okay, we're going to move over to the most dominant conference in our league, and that would obviously be the NFC. Keeping intact, I think there aren't going to be too many changes here. The NFC East, even though Ibo wants to believe that he's going to win that division at some point in the cycle, until he shows me he's going to win it in the season, in gameplay, until he can actually beat the Cowboys, I think Raider is going to continue his dominance there. The NFC West is two computer teams, and Maz and Ryan. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Maz remembers how to play Madden. He doesn't AFK for half the season, and I think Maz is going to win the NFC West. The shocking pick here in the NFC is I think the Vikings are going to win the NFC North. I think the Packers are going to struggle with the rookie QB. I think he's going to cost them a game or two early, and I think the Vikings are going to get a leg up and just ride it out and win the division. The NFC South, I think we all know who I'm going to pick there, so I'm not even going to say it out loud. I have the Packers and the Rams as the two wildcard teams. I can only really think of two NFC teams to put on the bubble, and that would be the Eagles and the Bears. And I'm not really sure how much the Bears fit there. There's just a lot of question marks in the NFC, and I don't see that many teams with a position to push out the regular contenders. That's, I guess, how I would say it. What do you have the NFC looking like this coming year?
Well, I feel like the two regulars are going to be still, the East and the South, are pretty much already locked up, Cowboys and the Falcons. Go ahead, give it to them. The West, I feel like it's going to be down to me and the Seahawks, but I feel like the Rams going to be able to pull it off. The North, though, I think might be the only real question mark. I feel like those guys are just going to beat the hell out of each other all year. But I think the Packers may slide through, but it's not going to be with the best of records, though. They may have the weakest record of all the division winners. With the wild card, I see the Vikings and Seahawks getting through. And as for the bubble teams, Eagles, obviously, I see them being a bubble team. The other two, I guess the Buccaneers, maybe. And just on virtue of simming all the games, the Giants.
Um, one more thing I want to touch on before we go to our Super Bowl predictions, which is I know one of the things most people want to hear, is I didn't actually write this down. This was something we wanted to talk about though. Was the rules, gameplay. A lot of new users joining. I know this was brought up, I believe, by RFF in chat before. How many users do you think is going to get kicked out due to violating rules, playing cheesy, however you want to describe it? And I just want to give a quick rundown to any of the new guys that may be listening to this show or may watch this show at a later date. Essentially, I mean, you read the rules, it's pretty black or white to a point. You want to mix up your play calling. You don't want to get to the point where even if you're down by a lot of points, there's still a lot more ways to move the ball than just running four verticals over and over again. You don't want to abuse a player, and I want to discuss this. I think, in my opinion, it's okay if a guy has a breakout game here and there, but when you start to have it every week, that's when it becomes a problem, in my opinion. So going forward, I think players can have big games. I just don't think it should be a reoccurring theme. If you're tight end, who's an average guy, say he's 80 overall, has a 120-yard game one game, that's fine. But when that same tight end is getting 150 yards every game, I think that's when you start to run into the problems. Is there anything in particular you'd like to address about these issues?
No, I mean, just mixing up the play calling, just spreading the ball around, make sure it's not going to one, two places. Defense, you want to do the same thing on your defense too. You want to make sure that's spread and,
I would also
try
say
to
offensively when
stop.
it comes to mixing up formations as well. You
Yeah.
don't have to you don't have to stay in the same formation all game. If your playbook has 5 or 6 formations in there, I feel like you can run at least one play out of every formation at some point in the game. You don't have to stay in shotgun the entire game. But let's get to the end. It's time to take it home, as they say. Super Bowl prediction time. I'm gonna let you go first. I'll go after, and then I'll close the show.
I'm gonna have to go Texans Falcons.
This is actually we chose not to discuss this before the show, so we wouldn't have the same idea. Actually, came up with the same thing. I think it's gonna be Texans Falcons. Um, I mean, obviously the outside shot. I think the NFC has a top three. No offense to Ryan or Maz, but I do think the top three in the NFC is Atlanta, Dallas, and Green Bay. I think Green Bay falls out for this season due to the rookie QB, so I think it'll be up to me and Dallas again. And who knows? I'm still. I think Raider eventually is going to get there. So it depends on playoff matchups, but I think he sometimes defeats himself going into the games. But if I somehow get knocked out before then, I think it'll be Dallas and Texans. But I think RFF is going to run the show in the AFC, and I think he's going to take Jordan to school. And I think we're going to see a new dominant team this year in the AFC with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. So, with our predictions made, the show's going to wrap up here. No timetable for the next show. As I've stated before, my schedule is kind of hectic currently. It could be a couple days from now. It could be a couple weeks. I'm going to try to do it as much as I can for you guys because I know some of you guys like hearing it. Give you something to do with the league. I do want to state yet again is some of you guys, if you guys want to come up with content and make it for TSO, I haven't really had much of that recently, and I blame myself for that as well, as I haven't been able to post things that I normally do. I'm gonna try to do something a little later today for my team, but let's get active again. You know, it's regular season time. Everybody's got a chance. Everybody's 0-0. Let's show how happy and how excited you are about your team. Let's make some content. Let's get some stuff for people to read in their spare time. And my name is Greatness. Everybody, good luck in the season. Hopefully, the injury bug doesn't bite everybody too hard. Have a good season.